new book that came out this year. It's called Introduction to Critical Thinking and Research for Teachers. Both of them are published by Routledge, and it's the more how-to-do book of the same content as the previous one. And again, it's all our own experiences of doing our research in different teaching and education settings. Our final book that's on its way at the moment, it's in the publishers, is going to come out with Bloomsbury. And it's about learning communities, because we found most of the groups that came together became a learning community, a bit like you are here. So we're writing about various educational learning communities. It's going to be called Learning Communities in Educational Partnerships, because in Ireland at the moment, the school-college partnerships is a big issue. Marie, do you want to interrupt and did you want to
going?
Keep going? Okay. What else did we do? We set up a network in Ireland because we found, as teachers having done additional educational research, there was nowhere. We can't access libraries once you're finished paying your college fees. You can't access academic literature except something like e-jolts. And there's nowhere to talk to other people who are interested in education at the level we are. So we set up a national network that meets face-to-face 3 times a year, and we have online mail chats and a website. Our website is called www.ERIE, educationalactionresearchireland.ie, and the network is NERI, Network of Educational Action Research Ireland.ie. So you're welcome to join that, blog it, or invite anybody to do that anytime they like. So that's myself. My friends are Maureen Glenn, Mary Roach, Bernie Sullivan, and myself, Caitriona McDonough. At the moment, we're all working in a variety of universities, but we're all part-timers except for Mary Roach. She's a full-time education lecturer. The rest of us work. Maureen teaches and is the principal. Bernie and I are retired, and we do the part-time work for colleges. This week I'm out in schools. My second interest is special ed. So I do a living theory project with a college in Ireland, and part of that is investigating their practice, and some of that will be in special ed. So I'm doing the teacher placement examination over the next few weeks.
Wow.
So I'll stop there.
Great, that's super.
Judy, you need to say where you are.
So we've got a bit of distortion. Can you hear Judy?
Say where you are?
Yep. I'm in Montreal. Retired special ed teacher and technical lecturer at McGill University. I continue to work primarily as a volunteer, but sometimes I take a contract if it appeals, if it's right, if it's a good fit. Basically, I'm working with teachers at the high school and at the university level who are doing research on practice using arts-based inquiry methods, in particular narrative inquiry and portraiture, in using various media. And again, we're trying to work from a living theory perspective, but a lot of my young colleagues don't really get it. They live it, but they don't get it. And so we're at a point now where we've begun to prepare papers for publication. We published a number of papers because they've come to understand the importance of public validation of the work that they do, that it's not just something that you do in your school or your classroom and just assume that nobody else would be interested or that no one else needs to know. And we present at a local conference. We've done so, a couple of local conferences every year, one at McGill and one that's put on by the Provincial Teachers Union. So my goal is to have them think and behave differently to overcome some of the obstacles that they encounter in school. The schools here right now are not happy places. there have been huge transformations over the last decade, and nothing is settling well. And I see the idea of teacher research as a way out of some of the unhappiness and the difficulties that they are encountering, and the teachers that I work with are coming to see that as well. So it's a question, I think, of now that I have some teachers who are, they're becoming very autonomous too. Less and less I facilitate, and more I observe or participate as an equal. And they're starting to understand the value of their work, and they're starting to bring other people into the groups, which I think is a really good sign. And so that's basically where we're at.
Yeah, great.
Great.
Swaroop?
Nothing really besides I went for this conference, Judy, in Nepal. It was cancelled last time during the earthquake. So I was lucky because Jack, sent me the flyer, and I wrote for that. So I presented an oral paper, which was called The Power of Possibility. And I did a workshop, which is called Using Drama to Teach Child Rights. And both went incredibly well, and it was very interesting because transformative education has got something very similar to living educational theory. And so all of them, really got what I was trying to tell. And a lot of them are very interested in the living educational theory. A lot of them had met Jack in South Africa. So in Nalini and Delicia. Oh God, what a lovely person she was. And I had this incredible experience, like I was telling, I wrote to Jack about it, is that one of our papers, which was written by Nima in the current issue, a girl's talking to me, she's from Australia, and suddenly she says, "Oh my God, you're the teacher she's talking about in the paper." And it felt so nice. And she said, "You must go and tell Nima that I loved her paper, and it was really very good, and it moved me." And I was really very happy to meet somebody who had actually read some of the stuff we wrote, and it made a big difference to her. So that was really nice. Yeah. So that is the best thing. That's what I have to share. Yeah.
Sorry, Jack.
It's just to mention that this is to Judy, because I mentioned it just a bit earlier, Judy, that on the 4th of February in Bath, there's a Khan Study Day, and it's going to be done virtually with a lot of people, like we did in the Toronto conference, and it's leading up to the first Global Assembly of Knowledge Democracies in Cartagena on June the 16th, 2017. Now, just as we're talking together, the quality of relationships, and just as we are communicating in our conversation, is what I've been trying to bring into these spaces, like the Study Day, the Khan Conference. When I was in Bolivia, this was 6 weeks ago, I think they've got something really special in their culture, which is grounded in the quality of conversation of the kind that we're now having. But I just want to mention that because I'm hoping to have by the end of next week just some of the information about the 4th of February, where with each of us, we have moved on in our context, haven't we, over the past 12 months? If you think of where we were 12 months ago, we've all...
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So I'm hoping by the end of next week to have just something to share that hopefully we'll feel that movement and to contribute on the 4th of Feb, and then in Cartagena, that's the 16th of June. So we can bring all of our ideas into that space and share them virtually. Anyway, I just want to mention that because something very important, I think, is happening in the conversations. As Swaroop is talking about the transformatory education conference in Nepal, where Sadhurin Kodashi has just got his doctorate at the University of Kathmandu, but that is about a living theory approach to teacher education in Pakistan. So, there's something about the quality of relationships which we're establishing in different parts of the world, which I'm hoping that we look at carefully and say, look, we do think there is something really significant about these conversations. But I'll pause there because I hope to have something to share, just in a week, just to see how you feel about it in terms of our own postdoctoral inquiries.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Marie, what about you?
Well, I think you've got it really. I'm really excited about the possibilities this now brings for really taking that space forward. And I'm particularly excited by the four of you because as you felt, I felt at Caitriona that you felt what I did at Cairn, that living theory research wasn't fully present there, sort of getting airbrushed out. And Judy, you're struggling with it, and yet Swaroop is able to share that enthusiasm that she met at Nepal.
It was so surprising. I mean, it was as if it was something so natural. In my room where I was speaking, we were about 8 speakers, I think. And it was my paper which everybody connected with. And, the living educational theory that came through with the transformative education. Because the others, they said that's not transformative and that's not transformative. But when the living educational theory, it has to be transformative. So, that's why that link was very wonderful. And they really thought that was one paper which was a very good paper and, relevant. So, sorry, I think that's why I got that enthusiasm.
Yeah, that's really good.
I think Judy said something that resonated with me there. What was it you said? They live it, but they don't get it yet. I think that's exactly where we're at. That, from my perspective, that's how I see a lot of people that I'm meeting with. So thanks for that, Judy.
Yeah. No, and
when they're asked to make things explicit, then they get stuck. But if I just listen to them and observe them, I can see that they're living it. And it's going to be interesting, Marie, because we're working on the article, and it's a living theory article. It's about living theory in our inquiry and practice. But I know what they're going to say. Well, can't we just talk about what we do without getting into that kind of zone where we don't really know what we're doing yet? Because they've come close to saying that already. So it's going to be an interesting exercise to write that. It's finished.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, you go. You go.
No, I just found trying to create that paper for Cairn, and now trying to develop that as an eJolts paper, has been fascinated in getting me to walk my own talk. That actually talking about it is not enough. The part of that research process is that writerly phase where you start to develop that multimedia narrative. In the first place, not with a view of an audience, but with a view to understanding yourself. And some people write easily. I don't. I find it extremely painful. And then sticking with it and translating that, when I've started to understand what I'm really about, into the readerly phase. So then with a view to an audience, how does this communicate? That, again, enriches my understandings. So rather than a traditional, and I hope I've got some of that in the paper, because rather than a traditional approach where you do your research and then you write it up, this is part of the research process, the living theory research process. So actually in creating accounts that can stand beyond ourselves, and it's not just it's a gift of our knowledge to others and also to ourselves at the same time. So I hope that you can help them see that, they don't know what they're doing until they've got there. There's an essayist, Graham, who said, how do you know what you're going to write until you've written it? I thought that was a really interesting observation, which is very much sort of living theory. How do you know what you've got until you've got it? So, anyway, I'm excited, and I interrupted you, Jack, because you want to talk about Santos.
No. It was just that when Judy said they live it but don't get it, and Caitriona, you picked that up. I'm writing to this group in Bolivia, in Cochabamba, the university there called San Simon this week, because there were 92 members of staff that were in this workshop, and the organisers have just written back to me to say that they're very keen to continue with those inquiries, and 90 odd of them actually put in their written assignments. Now, it's just what Judy's saying. They live it, but don't get it. And it's to do with the quality of relationship which is within that culture, which is really impressive, and yet they have yet to see the significance of it in their writings. So I shall use that phrase, if that's okay, Judy. You know, they're living it, but don't get it. And I'll work at that with them. So they bring something. Quite a lot want to go to Cartagena in June, next June. So that was really exciting for me. I think that really helps to focus on this positive thing. They're living it. You know, it's fantastic. But again, they don't get it in the sense of making it public and sharing the importance of what they're doing. So that's great. Thanks.
I think that's where everybody starts, though, isn't it? Yeah. I can remember when we first met you, Jack, at Bishop's, nobody knew what you were talking about, and you put us off with things like, and I think I've got this quote quite accurately, doesn't lend itself to linguistic discourse. Okay, so we'll work on that one for the next 2 weeks and see where we land, you know.
But you know, Judy, my experience was just the opposite. I could not believe that it is so simple. And because I didn't have a research background, I just knew I just was like a born teacher, you know, being an actress, and you know, I read Jack's papers. Like I've written a poem for him, and I said I was so glad I met him on my own, and nobody introduced me to him, because it was just by fluke that I found his papers, and I had photocopied them to read on my train journey from Worcester to London. And I was sitting at the station and reading his papers. And of course, bits of it I had to read it again and again. But it was so simple, and I just couldn't believe that it could be so simple, because it was there in my heart, you know. I mean, it was what I was doing. And Jack asked me this in my Viva, how did you do it so easily? And Jack, I did it so easily because it is so easy, you know, it is there. I don't understand how anybody can find it difficult, because it is just there, you know. So that's my experience, it's just the opposite,
It's unfamiliar. It's not what you expect when you start thinking in terms of a theory or a theoretical framework for your inquiry. Yes. That's not how we're schooled. And so this was trying to take something and put it into a traditional framework didn't work. Yeah.
Or maybe it is the cultural thing, you know, Jack, you are right. Because in India we have the culture of I know you all would be not at all familiar with this, but I'm quite often quoting the Bhagavad Gita, which is the discourse. And it is, you know, it's the discourse on how to live. And it has that, you know, it has do your actions without looking for the fruits. And, you know, I mean, you know, it's just that. So maybe it's in our culture, you know, we've been, you know, like it's been in ours, especially my generation, because, you know, we talk to our grandparents who fought with Gandhiji, you know, with Mahatma Gandhi. Yeah. And, you know, it was just in us, you know, because it's not so much in our parents. But I think it's more in my generation, because, you know, we listen to our grandparents who kept on talking about Mahatma Gandhi, and, you know, and I did a lot because my grandmother was very influenced by Mahatma Gandhi. And I find all that so easy to understand. So I think it may be cultural too, you know.
I'll send round this review I'm doing of DeSantis' book about this very difficult word he uses called epistemicide, which is the killing of knowledges. So it's like, Judy, when you're saying we were schooled. I was schooled in a way that denied the value of my practical knowledge. You know, it was the philosophers saying, we're going to replace your practical knowledge with ours, and it was as bold as that. So I'd like to share this guy DeSantis' ideas. He's giving the keynote in Cartagena in June, because I think it will resonate with us all. That's really good.
I'm sure, yeah.
I wonder whether it's also beyond just replacing your practical knowledge with certainly what I'm beginning to understand about things like notions of Ubuntu in Africa, the notions of things like Ba in Japan, and I'm getting the same sense from you, Swaroop, that it's not just a practical knowledge, it's actually a values.
Values, exactly. Exact. You're right. Yeah.
And which is not easily recognised within a sort of, I don't want to say Western, because there's different forms of Western, but within English or British universities, that form of knowledge is not accepted, and it's actually, so in some respects it might even be easier for other cultures to actually move with living theory. But I think what we can do is, because people tend to be far more enamoured with what they think somebody else is doing the other side of the world than what somebody actually sitting in the same room with them is doing, that if you can actually say, look, there's people in Nepal, there's people in South Africa, there's people in Japan, there's people in India that are running with this. They are really contributing knowledge that's concerned with the flourishing of humanity, and it can be valid and rigorous in an understanding, which is I think what the more traditional European approaches add to it. Then I think maybe we could get a little bit further, rather than always being so defensive. People say, oh well, living theory is just sort of a few people. Well, it ain't a few people, and other people in other cultures find this so much easier to understand. We could use this, which is why I'm excited when you Swaroop it. You go to Nepal and people are just excited and they understand and they're buzzing about it. And we go to Lincoln and you almost, as I said, living theory research that dare not speak its name. And it's beyond action research. It's beyond that sort of.
It is.
Framing.
It is the values which is so important. Yeah. And I think maybe that's why I found it very easy to understand. Sorry, yes, Caitriona, you were saying something.
As in Irish, we have different words for different forms of knowledge. So skills is very different from personal knowledge. So I was just wondering, in India, do you have different terms? As Jack says, this global knowledge symposium that we're talking about. Our understanding of knowledge, we have the word ahna is what we use for knowledge of a person. Olus is information type knowledge.
Yeah.
And there's another one I'm trying to think of. It is FIS is understanding.
Yeah.
A kind of knowledge. So as in critical thinking about things. So in any other cultures that you're familiar with, do you find different terminology? Rather than in English, I think we use skills and knowledge, and that's about it, and they're separate.
Yeah, we do have different words for it, and because of this deep culture of philosophy in the Indian culture, we have all these different levels of thinking and understanding. Yeah, we do. But that would be so difficult to understand for normal teachers.
Okay.
You understand. One of the biggest problems we have in our culture, we've got a huge divide, and it's very diverse. So we have the International Baccalaureate, and we have the IGCSE, the Cambridge Board, and we have the Indian Board, which was formed from the Cambridge Board, and then we have all the state boards, and rural education and urban education, and it's so different. So the teachers who I work with are usually the poor teachers who are working in the villages, and they have the worst kind of teacher education. So, it's like how Judy says, they know it, but they don't know how to write it, they don't know how to say it. And yeah, that's how it is. But at the same time, if I talk to them about spirituality, they would know it. So,
Right.
when you link spirituality or what Lord Krishna said in the Gita to things like this, they get it immediately. But it's not teacher education. It's not about, DMed, B.Ed. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Are we okay? Are we okay?
Yeah, exciting place to
Yeah,
finish.
what I can do is just put the video of this conversation, just in the unlisted section. And
Yes.
I'll do that tomorrow, because it just felt that there was what we've been sharing today, and with Caitriona coming in. It's been lovely to actually.
It's really been good.
Yeah, it really has.
That's what we want to try and get in on the
Meeting
study
you.
days. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Bye bye.
see you
Yeah.
next
So
week.
bye.
Bye.
Yeah,
Same
see you.
time,
Bye.
same
Bye.
place.
Yeah.
Bye.